the investment in technology deployment in the industry is picking up. What are you seeing as the main drivers of that? Is that an effort to really move the needle on capital project performance, or is it a result of the remote work and digital needs of COVID, or maybe a combination of those and other things? What are you seeing as the main drivers?
I think it's actually a few different things. I think there's an element of we've got a lot of people entering industry that have entered industry in the last 10 years, coming out of engineering school, coming out of construction management school, coming out of different, even trades backgrounds. And they've grown up with tools, with technology. They've grown up with it a part of their life, but they're now in a position of influence and decision making in these organizations. And they're going, we got to do this better. Like this has to happen better. Why are we, doing that pen and paper? Why are we doing it on some homebrewed Excel spreadsheet? Why are we doing this? I think that's a big aspect. I see a lot of people that, kind of come from the same generation as myself and going, that's their expectation now. They're in leadership roles. They're in project management roles. They're in, leadership at the enterprise level, and they're making these changes happen. That's a big part. I think too, there's been a lot of proven value out of technology over the last decade. I think technology is a very broad thing to say when we're talking construction tech. I'm focusing on the software side of technology, right? There's a whole slew of technology we're talking about that supports construction, but on the software side, which has often had pushback, why we've always done it this way, why would we change? You're seeing that change because there's been proven value on projects over the last decade, and now you're seeing leaders in organizations requiring it. But more importantly, I'm starting to see a lot more owners, the asset owners, that are saying, "You got to do it better. I want to see this. I want a digital twin at the end of the day. I want my data. You're building me an asset. I also want all the information from the asset, and contractually making that a requirement. And that's really, I don't know if the person who's cutting your check is requiring something, people jump. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think there's a few things there, but I think definitely the value's been proven now, and people have seen it. They've moved from project to project, and they're starting to they're you know even workers out in the field are demanding. They're like, I don't want to communicate via email. I want a tool that can give me everything I need in the palm of my hands when I need it, and I can get my job done, right?
So I want to dig into the proven value point a little bit, because
Yeah,
this is a topic area that professionals in the industry struggle with sometimes. And it's, if you're piloting something new, demonstrating, quantifying the value that new thing, software, hardware, insert technology here, created. And to our earlier discussion, how do you quantify something that didn't happen, that you prevented from happening? What advice would you give to technology champions out in the industry that are really pushing boundaries and trying to find and deploy software that really does create value, but also demonstrate at the end of a pilot or proof of concept that value was realized and
yeah.
can be ultimately scaled across the organization on other projects? What tips would you give professionals out there that are really trying to make the business case for it?
I mean, and again, back to our earlier conversation, that's a tough one at times. The Goldilocks situation is you've got a project that is comprised of two nearly identical scopes of work, and they're large enough that you can address any kind of risk. They're worth at least several months or more worth of work, and you compare one against the other. Have one that's adopting a new technology or a new work process. And I guess that's a good point too, is technology isn't a replacement for a stringent work process, workflow, right? It is there to support it. It's there to make sure that the process is doing its job, but you're not going to just plop it on the project and go, magically have it working. You need the people working with it. You need the people using the technology. So that's the Goldilocks situation. I think really the big one is, you kind of got to start that whiteboard, whether it be a digital one or not, but you need to start that whiteboard. And every time somebody says, hey, you know what, we think we found an opportunity here to save some time or save some schedule, or, like that really blunt in your face example with the piling where the equipment was out of sequence, mark it down, capture it and say, equipment was out as we had the equipment ordered. It was going to be 4 months delayed based off of our original plan. We've identified it today, and it just saved us, X amount of dollars by not having to order it up tomorrow, right? So you have to capture those kinds of things. Another really, valuable way to capture, ROI, particularly when we get down to like the, I call it like the tactical stage of construction, when we're boots on the ground, executing the work, is going to be, how rapidly can we collect the information from the field? Are we requiring a massive administrative team to tabulate that? Or can I, it's me sitting in the office, can I be somebody that can go quickly pull a report and know that that report is reflecting everything that took place yesterday or even this morning? And being able to do that and not have to have an administrative team pulling together everything that you did last week and reporting on 5 days ago, that's where you start to get the real value, because by getting those real-time reports where you can say, we've got an event that's taking place that started this morning at 9 a.m., rather than finding out about it 2 days later, I can go into action upon it today, and that's where you start to capture it. But you have to really be you have to have somebody who's dedicated to focusing on finding the value, and kind of back to the term, squeezing out juice out of the rock. They need to be looking at every avenue on where a change to their work process, a change to the technology has identified, helped identify a risk, helped make somebody safer, had an opportunity to optimize, procurement. So maybe it's a wishy-washy way of saying it, but you really have to be very serious about finding that ROI.